When I asked if I could say a few words at my grandson's birthday, my daughter-in-law leaned close to Michael and whispered, "You married her for pity, didn't you? I can't imagine why anyone would stay with her." I flung my drink at her. The glass shattered across her designer blouse. The backyard froze. 8-year-old Jake stopped mid-bite of his cake, staring. "Apologize or you're leaving," Michael barked. I laughed. "Oh no, it's time everyone hears the truth." The silence that followed was deafening. Parents and kids alike were frozen, unsure whether to flee or gawk. "I'm Eleanor Harper, 67, widow, and apparently the problem in my son's life." But Vanessa didn't know I'd been preparing for this moment for months. Michael rushed over, patting his wife on the shoulder. "Mom, calm down." I straightened my floral blouse. "Michael, there are children present. Keep your hands to yourself." Vanessa's voice shrieked. "You're completely losing it. Funny thing about being 67, no one expects you to have a backbone. But I do. And I've spent 35 years running the accounting department at a major firm. I can spot deceit from a mile away." "I think there's a misunderstanding," I said, my voice carrying across the yard. "Vanessa seems to think I'm some frail old woman who won't notice." "That's a mistake." Michael grabbed my arm. "Eleanor, apologize. Now." I looked at him, the boy who used to bring me dandelions and call me his hero, the man I'd raised alone after his father passed when he was 12. Now he was ready to defend the woman who whispered that his father died just to escape me. "No, Michael. I think it's time the truth comes out." Vanessa's face went pale, streaks of my iced tea cutting across her carefully applied makeup. "What truth?" she stammered. I reached for my phone. "Shall I start with the little investigation I had done last month, or the real reason you married my son?" The crowd leaned in. Jake clutched his baseball glove, confused. "Nothing for you to worry about, sweetheart," I said, kneeling to his level. "Why don't you go show your friends the new treehouse?" He ran off, leaving me to face the adults. "You see," I said, standing tall, "I've been doing some digging these past few months. It's amazing what you find when you actually pay attention." Vanessa's hands trembled. "Michael, she's losing it. We should call her doctor." "Doctor? Honey, the only one who needs medical attention is you." Michael blinked. "Mom, what are you talking about?" "I'm talking about the fact that you were never loved, Michael. Vanessa planned this, every detail. She studied our family, our finances, our weaknesses. The moment she bumped into you at that cafe 3 years ago, she knew exactly what she was doing." The temperature seemed to drop 20 degrees in the yard. Vanessa's mouth opened and closed, like a fish out of water. "That's not true," Michael said, his voice losing conviction. "Oh, but it is," I said sweetly. "Should I show them the investigator's report, or would you like to explain?" Guests scattered. Vanessa bolted to the bathroom, her face pale but her new dress clean. Michael paced the kitchen, muttering. I sat on the back porch swing, sipping fresh iced tea, feeling more alive than I had in years. "Mom, you can't just make claims like this," Michael said for the 3rd time. "Claims? Sweetheart, I haven't made any claims yet. I merely suggest some explaining may be necessary." He ran his hands through his hair, nervous like when he was a boy. "What private investigator?" I said. "Let's start with her alleged background. Marketing experience, caring for a wealthy aunt in Florida, a nice inheritance." "All lies." Michael's face drained of color. I scrolled my phone. "I hired a real private investigator. Vanessa's story was fabricated, every bit of it. And yet, she knew more about our finances than someone who'd just met you should." Michael frowned. "I don't remember telling her anything." "Exactly. And yet, she knew." The trust fund for Jake, Dad's life insurance, my own, she knew it all. Even subtly pushing me to update my will, suggesting retirement homes. Have you noticed that? Michael's silence spoke volumes. Vanessa emerged, face clean but eyes red. Michael, we need to talk. Alone. I stood. Actually, I think the three of us need to talk together. Unless you'd rather this conversation happen in front of the whole neighborhood tomorrow. Her jaw clenched. This ends now. I smiled. Oh, sweetheart. The game is just beginning, and you'll love the ending. 6 months ago, I'd thought she was just self-absorbed. Then she made a critical mistake. One Wednesday morning in January, I came over to watch Jake while Michael went to a client meeting. Vanessa was supposed to be at yoga, but I found her in Michael's home office, going through his filing cabinet. If you love real emotional stories, hit subscribe, we post one every day. Vanessa jumped when she saw me standing in the doorway. Eleanor. I didn't hear you come in. I held my car keys loosely in my hand. What are you looking for, dear? Just some tax records. Michael asked me to find the property tax statements for our accountant. I raised an eyebrow. Vanessa, property taxes are handled by the mortgage company as part of your escrow payment. For a split second, her perfect smile faltered. I caught a flicker of something cold and calculated in her eyes before she composed herself again. Of course, silly me. I must have misunderstood, she said, closing the filing cabinet. I should get to yoga, traffic is horrible this time of day. Once she left, I went straight to Michael's office. The filing cabinet was unlocked, which was unusual. Michael was meticulous about his important papers. I opened the drawer Vanessa had been rifling through. Inside, insurance policies, investment accounts, my will, the college fund documents for Jake. Everything financial was there, clearly disturbed. That afternoon, I called my lawyer. Eleanor, good to hear from you, Henry Cole said. What can I do for you? I need you to answer something confidentially, I said. Has anyone contacted your office asking about my will or any legal documents? There was a pause. That's unusual. Why do you ask? Just answer me. No one has contacted me directly. But, about 2 weeks ago, someone claiming to be your daughter-in-law called. She said you were thinking about updating estate documents and wanted to know what we had on file. My blood ran cold. What did you tell her? I said I couldn't discuss client information without written authorization. She pressed, insisted it was urgent for family planning purposes. She said her name was Vanessa Reed, Michael's wife. I hung up and stared at the kitchen wall for an hour, trying to absorb it. Vanessa hadn't just been curious, she was systematically gathering information. The next day, I called my longtime friend Linda Clark at the bank where I'd held accounts for decades. Linda, I need a favor, and you have to promise to keep it between us, I said. Of course, Eleanor. What's going on? I need to know if anyone has inquired about my accounts, claiming to be family, asking about balances or beneficiaries. Linda hesitated. Actually, about a month ago, a woman came in claiming to be your daughter-in-law. Said she was helping you organize finances because you might forget things. But she knew details, like which accounts you had, approximate balances, even your safe deposit box. After hanging up, I made a list: the filing cabinet, the lawyer, the bank. What else had she been investigating? That evening, I spent 3 hours online, learning how to hire a private investigator. By the next Monday, I had an appointment with Diane Palmer Investigations. Diane's office was small but professional. She was in her 50s, with sharp eyes and no-nonsense presence. Mrs. Harper, what do you want to know? Diane asked. I explained everything: Vanessa's behavior, the financial inquiries, the nagging sense that something was off. I want to know who she really is, I said. What she did before she met my son. And if this is a pattern. She nodded. It'll take a few weeks. I'll need some basic info, maiden name, claimed hometown, work history. I gave her everything Vanessa had told us. May I ask, Diane said, why not just update your will or move assets? I thought about Michael, about Jake, about the life they'd built. Because if I'm right, my son needs to know. If I'm wrong, then I'll apologize. 3 weeks later, Diane called me to her office. You're not going to like this, she said, spreading 5 manila folders across her desk. I felt my stomach twist. Tell me everything, I said. Vanessa Reed isn't who she says she is. She was born Vanessa Morrison in Ohio. She's 32, not 28 as she told your son. She's been married twice before, to men with significant family wealth or elderly parents. I took the birth certificate she handed me, my hands shaking. What happened to her previous husbands? Marcus Langley, a lawyer, his mother passed 6 months after Vanessa married in. She received a large inheritance before their divorce 2 years later. Then Robert Chen, a tech executive in Seattle. His father died in what was ruled an accident 8 months into the marriage. Robert inherited the business and added Vanessa to the board. Divorce 18 months later. I felt sick. She studies families for months before making contact, tracking habits, finances, routines. She even worked at a private investigation firm, access to databases most people don't know exist, right before meeting Michael. Diane showed me photos, Vanessa sitting in the cafe where she claimed to meet Michael, 2 weeks before the official first encounter. She'd been surveilling him, learning his patterns. And the story about the aunt in Florida? I asked. Complete fiction. She was living in Portland during that time, finalizing a divorce. I stared at the evidence. 3 years of marriage to a professional con artist, manipulating my son while plotting every step. Does she know our finances? I asked. Diane opened the final folder. She knows exactly what she wants. Your house, $800,000. Investment portfolio, $1.2 million. That's why she married your son. The life insurance policy Michael's father left me was valued at $500,000. Add in my savings and investments, and my net worth approached $3 million. I nearly dropped my coffee. That can't be right, I whispered. Your husband was very savvy with investments, Mrs. Harper, Diane Palmer said, her voice serious. And property in your area has tripled in value over the last decade. From Vanessa's perspective, you're a major prize. I swallowed hard. But I'm healthy. I'm not planning to die anytime soon. Diane leaned forward. Eleanor, I need to ask you something. Be honest with yourself. Has Vanessa encouraged you to do anything risky for your health? I paused. Risky? Her suggestions flashed in my mind: rock climbing, a new doctor she recommended, herbal supplements she ordered online. Oh my God, I whispered. Eleanor, Diane said softly, I think she might be planning something, and based on her history, you need to be extremely careful. I gathered the folders she had provided with trembling hands. Diane, I need copies of everything. Already done, she said. Now, what are you planning? I'm going to protect my family, I said, standing taller than my 67 years felt. Even if it means exposing her schemes. The worst part of discovering that Vanessa was a professional marriage scammer wasn't the betrayal, it was the waiting. For 2 months, I had to face her at Sunday dinners, smiling and pretending I didn't know she was plotting to either rob us or worse. But I wasn't idle. I moved my most important assets to new accounts at another bank, updated my will through a different law firm, and rented a safe deposit box across town to store copies of Diane's files. I documented everything Vanessa did, the supplements, the suspicious, helpful advice. Independent tests revealed the supplements could cause dizziness and heart irregularities in elderly patients. The new doctor she recommended had his license suspended in other states for insurance fraud. Every gesture she made was a step toward control or danger. Then came the call that changed everything. I was in my kitchen one Thursday morning when my phone rang. The caller ID read Detective Samuel Kane, Seattle Police Department. How can I help you, Detective? Mrs. Harper, I understand you've been inquiring about Vanessa Reed, formerly Vanessa Chen, he said. I sank into a chair. Yes. We've reopened the investigation into Robert Chen's death, he said. My world tilted. I thought his death was ruled an accident. It was, but new evidence has surfaced. Authorities in Cincinnati also contacted us regarding Marcus Langley's mother. What was once considered natural causes is now being reviewed as possible poisoning. Mrs. Harper, are you living with Vanessa or in close contact with her? Yes. Weekly family dinners, I admitted. Listen carefully, Detective Kane said. Based on our findings, Vanessa may be responsible for at least 2 deaths and could be planning a third. You could be in danger. I told him about the supplements, the fake doctor, the suspicious behavior. Mrs. Harper, you must be very cautious. Don't accept any medication from her, and don't let her know you suspect anything. How long before she can be arrested? I asked. We need more proof, either a confession or clear evidence of her intent. That evening, Michael and Vanessa came over for dinner. I served roast beef, smiling, watching Vanessa laugh and help herself to seconds. Eleanor, you outdid yourself tonight, Vanessa said. The meat is perfect. What's your secret? I thought of saying my secret was patience, not poison. While she washed dishes, I pulled Michael aside. Son, has Vanessa ever mentioned her past relationships? Michael looked uneasy. Not really. She says she prefers to focus on us. What about her family, friends from before she met you? I asked. Mom, why all the questions about Vanessa's past? Because she's a serial manipulator, I blurted. And I just realized I don't know the woman your son married. Vanessa called from the kitchen, Michael, can you help me with something? He left, and I noticed her purse on the table. I considered looking through it but remembered Detective Kane's warning, never let her suspect I knew. As they got ready to leave, she hugged me. See you Sunday, Eleanor. I'm making my famous apple pie. I wondered if Marcus Langley's mother or Robert Chen's father had complimented her cooking. After they left, I called Detective Kane. She's planning something for Sunday. I can feel it. Can you get her to incriminate herself? He asked. I watched Jake practice soccer, noticing Vanessa's nervous glances, the way she touched Michael for reassurance. The birthday party confrontation had rattled her, and the investigation was forcing mistakes. Sliding onto the bleacher next to me while Michael talked to Jake's coach, Vanessa said, Eleanor, I think we should clear the air about yesterday. I didn't look at her, keeping my eyes on Jake. What's there to clear up, dear? You seemed upset, and I just want you to know if I said anything hurtful, it wasn't intentional. Her fake smile made my skin crawl. I was just frustrated. Planning Jake's party is stressful, and sometimes I say things I don't mean. I finally turned to her. And the private investigator you hired to check my finances, was that also just stress? Her face went pale, then red, then pale again. She stood abruptly, and I knew the real reckoning was about to begin. I think you're imagining things, Eleanor. Maybe the stress of Harold's passing is affecting you more than you realize, Vanessa said, her voice dripping with false concern. Is that your professional opinion, Dr. Reed? I asked sweetly. Oh, wait. You're not a doctor. You're not even who you claim to be. Her face went pale. I don't know what you think you're doing, but it stops now, she said, her voice shaky. The same game you played with Marcus Langley and Robert Chen, I said calmly. For a moment, her carefully maintained mask slipped entirely, revealing something cold and dangerous in her eyes. You don't know what you're talking about, she whispered. Don't I? Should I call Detective Kane and let him hear your side of the story? Vanessa's hands trembled. You called the police. They called me. Apparently, they've been very interested in talking to you about suspicious deaths in your past. Her gaze swept the soccer field, probably calculating an escape. Michael was distracted by Jake, and Jake was happily kicking the ball, oblivious to the confrontation. I think you've misunderstood some things, Vanessa said, trying to regain control. Have I? I replied, slow and deliberate. You spent months researching Michael and our family before orchestrating your first meeting. You've systematically tried to access my finances and legal documents. You've pushed dangerous supplements and questionable medical advice. And you have a history of marrying men whose elderly relatives die shortly after you join their families. Vanessa sank to the bleacher, her legs no longer able to support her. What do you want? She whispered. I want you to leave my family alone, I said, smiling sweetly. And if you don't, tomorrow, at Sunday dinner, when you bring that famous apple pie, Detective Kane will be waiting in the kitchen to arrest you. Her breathing quickened. You can't prove anything. Vanessa Morrison from Ohio, age 32, twice divorced. Both previous husbands lost elderly relatives under suspicious circumstances shortly after you married. Shall I continue? That's all circumstantial, she stammered. Maybe, but it's enough to get you arrested while they investigate. And once they dig deeper, how long before they find proof? Michael approached the bleachers. Vanessa quickly straightened herself. What exactly are you proposing? She whispered. Leave tonight. File for divorce. Move to another state. Find some other family to victimize. If you do that, I'll give you 24 hours before I alert Detective Kane to your new location. That's not enough time to plan my death. To access my assets before you run. 24 hours is generous, I said. Michael reached the bleachers. What are you two talking about so seriously? Vanessa forced a bright smile. Just about tomorrow's dinner. I thought I'd make something special. Actually, I said, standing, I think Vanessa might be too tired for cooking tomorrow. All this party planning has worn her out. Oh no, I insist, she said, faltering. I wouldn't want to disappoint anyone. Well, I said, gathering my purse, we'll see what tomorrow brings. As we walked to the cars, she grabbed my arm. Eleanor, you're making a big mistake. I looked down at her hand, then met her eyes. The only mistake I made was not figuring out who you really were sooner. But I won't make that mistake again. Sunday morning was gray and drizzly, matching my mood. I wondered whether Vanessa would disappear, as I advised, or arrive with a more permanent solution in mind. At 9 a.m., Michael called. Mom, Vanessa's not feeling well. Maybe food poisoning from that seafood place last night. We might need to cancel dinner. Food poisoning? I said, masking my thoughts. Is she seeing a doctor? She says it's just a 24-hour bug. Should be fine by tomorrow. I decided to force her hand. David, why don't you and Jake come for dinner anyway? I'll make something simple, and you can take a plate home to Vanessa. No, Jake shouldn't miss Sunday dinner because of her stomach. Plus, I have something important to discuss with you. What kind of something? Better said in person. Can you be here by 5? After Michael agreed, I called Detective Kane. Samuel, tonight might be the night. Are you sure, Mrs. Harper? This could be dangerous. I thought about it. Vanessa was cornered, knew her past was exposed, and mistakes would come naturally from desperation. Women like Vanessa don't give up million-dollar paydays without a fight, I told him. At 4:30, I started cooking simple comfort food, meatloaf, mashed potatoes, green beans, nothing she could tamper with. Michael and Jake arrived on time. Jake ran to the living room for cartoons. Michael looked tired. "How's Vanessa feeling?" I asked neutrally. "Better. She might come later to pick us up," he said. Of course she would. "Sit down, we need to talk." I pulled out one of Diane's folders and set it on the table. "Michael, your wife isn't who she says she is." For 20 minutes, I showed him everything: real birth certificates, previous marriages, suspicious deaths, patterns of manipulation. His expression shifted from confusion to anger to horror. "This can't be real," he whispered, staring at the photo of Vanessa surveilling him at the coffee shop. "It's real, son." "And there's more," I said, explaining Detective Kane's reopened investigations and the dangerous supplements Vanessa had pushed on me. "She'd been trying to harm me and control our family." Michael buried his face in his hands. 3 years. 3 years of marriage to a stranger. "There's something else," I said. "I confronted her yesterday." "You what?" he asked. "I told her I knew who she really was. I gave her a choice: leave town or face the police." "That was dangerous, Mom. That's why Detective Kane has officers stationed outside, just in case." Vanessa's car pulled into the driveway. Michael and I exchanged a look. "What do we do?" he asked. "We act normal," I said. "Let her think she's still in control. The police are recording everything." Vanessa knocked, unusually formal. Michael went to answer while I stayed in the kitchen, heart pounding. "Surprise," she said, voice bright. "I'm feeling better. I brought dessert." She entered the kitchen, holding a covered pie dish, smiling as she had for 3 years, oblivious that her time of control was over. "All that talk about detectives and police," Vanessa said, slicing the pie with mechanical precision. "You must have me confused with someone else." "Actually, Vanessa," I said, "I don't think I am." The knife froze mid-cut. "Eleanor, really, maybe we should just forget all this unpleasantness," she said, voice forced. "I agree," I said lightly. "Michael and I were just talking about clearing the air." Vanessa's eyes flicked between us, and for a split second, I saw her realize that Michael knew everything. Her composure didn't just slip, it shattered. "How much did you tell him?" she whispered. "Everything." She glanced at the pie, at us, then toward Jake, who was happily absorbed in cartoons. When her gaze returned, it was desperate, sharp, and dangerous. "You have no idea what you've done," she said. I noticed the knife in her hand. The room became taut with silence, punctuated only by the cartoons and the ticking clock. "Vanessa," Michael's voice was calm, but I could see the tension in his hands. "Put the knife down." "You know what's funny?" she said, ignoring him. "I actually grew fond of all of you. It would have been so much easier if you'd just played along." "Played along with what?" I asked, voice steady. She laughed, a sound that crawled under my skin. "Murder." "Oh, Eleanor, you watch too many thrillers. I don't kill people." "And yet Marcus Langley's mother and Robert Chen's father." She stepped closer, eyes gleaming. "Sometimes people just need a little help accepting that it's their time." Michael stood, careful. "Vanessa, whatever you're thinking, Jake is in the next room." Her expression softened briefly. "Sweet boy. He was never part of the plan." "I'm not a monster, David," she said, turning to me. "I don't hurt children. I help families transition through difficult times." I felt the chill of madness in her words. "And the money? Just a coincidence?" Compensation for services rendered, she said. You have no idea how exhausting it is to pretend to care while someone declines. That's what I've been doing with you. You were supposed to deteriorate faster, she admitted, tilting her head thoughtfully. The supplements should have weakened you. But, you're surprisingly strong for 67. Her casual talk of my death made me sick. The new doctor you recommended, Dr. Patterson, his role? He's great with elderly patients. Flexible with documentation. Perfect for my little arrangements. Michael took a cautious step forward. So, what's your next move? Honestly, she said, gesturing with the knife, I'm improvising. Eleanor was supposed to have a heart episode 3 months ago. You were to inherit, then share willingly with your devoted wife. But you didn't cooperate by dying on schedule. And then, you had to snoop. I heard a car door outside. Detective Kane's silhouette appeared through the kitchen window. Vanessa froze, her face drained of color. You called the police, she whispered. I told you I would, I replied. She looked at the knife, at Michael, then at me. For a heartbeat, I feared she might strike. Then, she carefully set it on the counter and smoothed her hair. Well, she said, almost sweetly, I suppose it's time for the final act. The front door opened, and Detective Kane's voice called out. Mrs. Harper, I'm coming in. We're in the kitchen, Detective, I said. When he entered, Vanessa was seated at the table, hands folded, calm as if awaiting tea service. Vanessa Reed, Detective Kane said, nodding. We've been wanting to speak with you. I'm sure you have. Am I under arrest? That depends. Voluntary questioning or transport downtown? Vanessa looked around at the pie, at Michael's pale face, at me. Detective, may I ask something? Go ahead. If someone hypothetically relieved elderly people of prolonged suffering, and families hypothetically benefited financially, would that hypothetically be a crime? Detective Kane froze. Ma'am, are you confessing? I'm speaking hypothetically. If someone hypothetically poisoned elderly people for inheritance. That's first-degree murder, ma'am, Kane said flatly. And if that person planned to do it again, she continued. Conspiracy, attempted murder, multiple charges. She stood, glancing at the police cars arriving outside. Detective, I've always wondered, how long does Digitalis take to work? The room chilled. You're saying you've given someone Digitalis? Kane asked sharply. Not yet, she said, smiling sweetly. But Eleanor's famous apple pie is cooling on the counter. And I hate to see good food wasted. I realized then, the knife was never the threat. The pie was. Kane stepped forward, but she raised her hand. I wouldn't, Detective. It's enough to kill 3 adults. My stepson is in the living room with sticky fingers, if he touches the wrong surface. You wouldn't harm Jake, I said. Accidents happen, she said. Kane spoke into his radio. We need a hazmat team here immediately. Keep everyone out of the house. Michael's voice was tight. Eleanor, Jake is innocent in all this. Everyone is innocent, Michael. That's the tragedy, she said, moving toward the living room. Kane drew his weapon. Stop right there, ma'am. Or what? She taunted. Shoot me while a toxic substance sits on the counter. Officers swarmed in. Kane's voice was firm. Perimeter secured. Keep everyone away from the kitchen and get the child out of the living room. Vanessa laughed lightly. Too late for that, I'm afraid. We rushed to the living room. Jake sat glued to the couch, hands clean, safe. Jake, I called softly. Come to Grandma Eleanor. Just a minute, Grandma, he said. Vanessa smiled. Children never listen when you really need them to. Kane said carefully, let's handle this calmly. No one has been hurt yet. No one, except for Marcus Langley's mother, Robert Chen's father, and perhaps 6 or 7 others over the years you haven't met yet, Vanessa admitted casually. Chills ran down my spine. 6 or 7 others. Detective Kane leaned in. You mean Michael wasn't your first target after all? Oh, detective, you have no idea how long I've been refining my talent, she said, eyes glinting. Shall I explain? She sank into the armchair across from Jake, who remained blissfully oblivious, his eyes glued to the cartoons. It all started when I was 22, Vanessa began, her voice almost wistful. I was caring for an elderly man, George Whitman. Sweet, lonely, very wealthy. His family never visited. What happened to him? Kane asked cautiously. Heart failure, she said smoothly. Sudden, peaceful. And he'd grown fond of me over the months. He changed his will, left me a modest inheritance. How modest? I asked, my stomach twisting. $200,000. Enough to change everything. I felt my blood run cold. She spoke of death like a professional achievement. That's when I realized, she continued, I had a gift. I knew what elderly people needed, peace, release from the burden of aging. I became very good at providing it. So, it became your business. Kane pressed. More than business. My calling, Vanessa said, with a faint smile. Do you know how many families I've helped? Jake finally looked up. Dad, why are the police here? Michael knelt beside him. Jake, go outside with the nice officers. Grandma Eleanor and I will join you in a minute. You can watch your cartoons on my phone. As an officer led Jake out, Vanessa's expression softened. I'm going to miss that little boy, she murmured. You're not going near him ever again, Michael snapped. Oh, Michael, she said, pulling a small vial from her purse. My heart stopped. I didn't put the digitalis in the pie. It's been in the mashed potatoes for the past hour. Chaos erupted. Michael collapsed to the floor, clutching his stomach. Detective Kane lunged toward Vanessa while calling for medics. I knelt beside my son as his face turned gray. Stay with me, Michael, I whispered, my hands gripping his. Vanessa's voice floated from somewhere behind me, calm and sinister. Don't worry, Eleanor. I calculated the dose carefully. He'll fade slowly enough for you to say goodbye. Rage consumed me. I lunged at her, 67 years old or not, fueled by fury. Kane intercepted me, but not before I managed to spit in her face. You're finished, I hissed. Vanessa wiped her cheek delicately. Actually, Eleanor, you might be finished. Before anyone could react, she raised the vial to her lips and drank. Dead women tell no tales, detective. Without me, there's nothing left to prove. She collapsed. Kane was already on the radio, calling for multiple ambulances and alerting the hospital of 2 possible poisoning victims. I clutched Michael's hand as he gasped for air, watching the woman who had nearly destroyed our family convulse on the carpet. She won't win, I whispered. Not while I'm here. 3 weeks later, I sat by Michael's hospital bed as he attempted solid food for the first time since the poisoning. The doctors say you'll recover fully, I told him. It'll take months to undo the damage, but you'll be fine. Mom, you don't have to stay all day, he said, pushing the bowl away. Jake's fine, I said. Linda's taking care of him, they're making cookies. I held his hand. Besides, where else would I be? He was quiet for a moment. I keep thinking about the signs I missed. All the times Vanessa said or did things that should have warned me. Son, I said gently, she was a professional. That's what she did for a living. but the responsibility for her actions lies solely with her. Ironically, Vanessa had saved the prosecutor's work by taking her own life that night. Most of her secrets died with her, but Detective Kane had enough from her confessions to close several cold cases. A knock interrupted my thoughts. Kane stood at the door, holding a manila envelope. "Detective, how nice to see you. I wanted to update you," he said, pulling up a chair. "Vanessa Reed, whatever her real name was, has been linked to 9 suspicious deaths across 6 states over the last 15 years. Michael closed his eyes. 9 people. The good news. Kane said. Her death has closed all of those cases. Families finally have answers. He handed me the envelope. These are copies of all the evidence used in the investigation. Thank you, I said. What about Dr. Patterson? Arrested, Kane said. He provided fraudulent death certificates for multiple cases, not just Vanessa's. Federal charges pending. After Kane left, Michael and I sat in quiet relief. Mom, he said finally, how did you know? What made you suspicious? I smiled, embarrassed. It started with a pie. Michael stared. A pie? 3 months after your wedding, Vanessa told me my apple pie was delicious. I'd never baked one for her, never mentioned pies. That small lie made me wonder what else she was lying about. Michael shook his head. A pie nearly got me killed. No, I said. Marrying a serial killer nearly got you killed. The pie just helped me figure it out. A month later, Jake and I were baking a real apple pie. Grandma Eleanor, he asked, why did Vanessa try to hurt Dad? I considered carefully. Jake, sometimes people get sick in their hearts and minds. Vanessa was very sick. And when people are that sick, they sometimes hurt others. But she seemed nice, he said. Yes, I said. That's why we have to be careful. What matters is how people treat us over time, not just how they seem at first. Jake nodded solemnly. Dad's going to be okay. Doctors say he'll be home next week. And you're okay too. I looked at my grandson, this bright, resilient boy who had almost lost his father. I'm better than okay. I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be. 6 months later, I stood in court as Michael's divorce from Vanessa Reed was finalized posthumously. A strange proceeding, but necessary to untangle the financial chaos she had caused. David's lawyer approached me afterward. All your assets are secured and returned. House deed corrected, bank accounts back in your name only. Thank goodness, I said. And the life insurance policy she took out on Michael? Voided, he said. Insurance companies don't pay out when the beneficiary attempts to murder the insured. Relief washed over me. Justice, finally, had a name. As we stepped out of the courthouse, Michael draped his arm around my shoulders. So, what's next, Mom? He asked. You could sell the house, travel the world, you've got plenty of years ahead. I let the thought linger. At 67, I did have decades left, years I could finally spend for myself. Actually, I said, smiling, I think I'll stay here for a while. Maybe focus on baking. I've even been toying with the idea of opening a small cafe. That sounds amazing, Michael said, his eyes lighting up. Anne. I think Jake and I should move back in with you for a while. The house still holds too many memories of Vanessa. Michael's smile was genuine for the first time since the poisoning, a warmth that made my chest ache with relief. I'd like that, I said. As we drove home, my thoughts drifted to Vanessa's final words, dead women tell no tales. She had been wrong. Dead women may take their secrets with them, but those who survive, and fight to protect their families, tell the stories that matter most. Now, I turn to you, reading this story. Have you ever had to protect someone you loved from danger? Have you ever discovered that someone you trusted was hiding a darker truth? Share your experiences. Speak your truths. Because in the end, the voices of those who fight for family are the ones that echo the loudest.